There's so much information on the internet about diets and how to lose weight. And, one week carbs are good, the next week carbs are bad. One week walnuts are the best health food, the next week walnuts are not good because, they got mold growing on them and mold can cause this issue. One week, this vitamin's the vitamin you should be taking. 6 months later, no, if you take too much of that, it affects the other minerals and causes an imbalance. And, it seems to be an ongoing cycle of just this relentless stream of information that's always it's always a new idea, it's always a new thing. So I wanted to do this video because I believe from my personal experience, and I've had my own battles with food, eating disorders and everything else when I was younger. So I feel that I am in a good position to share this information from personal experience. I actually eat more now and more freely than I ever have, and have I'm probably not the lightest, but almost the lightest. And that's not anything to do with food. It's actually not to do with food. It's to do with how I feel within myself. I really believe that when you align your life and your daily life and your external circumstances, when you align that to your soul purpose and you start living a soul-led life, like you live from the inside out instead of the outside in. And by that, I mean, you don't just live to survive. And I know there's people that might be listening to this thinking, well, how do I get out of that living to survive? Because it's a trap. And it is, I've been there again, so I know that it's not just like click your fingers and magically the next day, your life can change. It is a journey and it does take patience and battling, but you have to have a goal and you have to have something that you're trying to achieve to help you make that next step towards living that life, that soul-centered life. The life that you reflect who you are, and hopefully build a career around that so you can do that all day, every day and earn money that way, as opposed to just doing a job that you're not interested in at all. And then maybe, having half an hour a day to actually focus on something that makes you feel like you're, expressing your creativity or who you are. So really, I would definitely say, look, building a career around your soul fulfillment is the absolute key to that. But going back to the food side of things and the weight, I found that the more I've been able to do that, and I would say I'm in quite a good place now. I have managed, my job is a corporate role. I do two, so I've got a corporate full-time role, and then I do my freelance coaching, mentoring, psychic work, healing on the side. And I've also just launched a sacred geometry clothing range as well. So, but that's all on the side, but my full-time job is actually as closely aligned to this as possible. So I actually work in learning and development, where I actually do work on developing people, management skills, leadership skills, coaching, developing the graduate program, helping the graduates to enhance their career, setting up the infrastructure in the company around learning and development and how to develop people. What skills do we need? How do we develop those skills? But that was a conscious choice, and that was something that I had to be strategic about, because firstly I had to look at who am I? Because I think everyone, a lot of people get to a point in life where you've sort of drifted along and you've done, you went to uni, you studied something because you thought it was going to get you a good job, but you lose yourself in the process because you forget to actually think about the importance of expressing who you are. So I've had to be, I had to put a lot of work. I had to transition my career. I didn't have a degree in this. I had a degree in economics and finance. So I couldn't, I sort of had to start from scratch really. But the more I've come into alignment with my daily routine and who I am, and that flows more, so I feel like I can express who I am through my work, the more I have just lost weight. Because what's happened is I'm not stress eating as much. I'm not eating because I'm trying to fill a void. You know, a lot of people, if they're not living the life that they love, which I know sounds a bit cheesy, and I'm far from, you know, I'm living a life that I like a lot more than my past, but I wouldn't say I'm completely there yet. But even already, I feel that I just don't stress eat as much because I'm more fulfilled with what I'm doing. So therefore, I'm not seeking fulfillment through food, you know, cigarettes, alcohol, and anything else really that's just intoxicating your body. So really for me, the diets, I actually do try, you know, I do take vitamins and all supplements, and I do eat healthily, but I also eat quite badly as well. I mean, my chocolate cupboard is not in a good way. It's definitely the busiest cupboard is the chocolate cupboard, which I'm trying to work on. But I've definitely noticed that if I try and restrict myself, and if I go on one of these I'm not allowed to eat this diets, actually what it does, it builds up internally, it builds up a resistance. So what I've actually said to myself is I need to resist that thing, which in this case would be chocolate. And I need to stay away from that because that's going to lead to something bad. And really, you're sending yourself a message that this thing, chocolate or whatever it is bad. And then by pushing it away, it's human nature that whatever you think you can't have, the resistance towards that builds up to the point where you may then overindulge on that just to prove to yourself that you have the freedom, you know, because we all want to be free. We all want to live freely. We don't actually humans don't like constriction and boundaries and limits. We don't inherently, our human nature is that we don't like limitation. And actually, that's a good thing because that's the way we're designed. We shouldn't have limitations because through limitation, you're disempowering yourself because what you're saying is, I can't do that, that, and that because I don't have the level of wisdom or, you know, the emotional intelligence or understanding to work through that present moment of being in that situation. And actually that just builds up inherently a fear. So then what happens is you start to get these fears, really irrational fears, like if you eat one chocolate, the world is going to end. You know, it's the biggest catastrophe that ever happened because you ate a Mars bar. So the more you build up the resistance, the more you sink when you fail and actually do the thing that you've been trying not to do. But the human nature is always going to make you do it because it's whenever you focus on not doing something, you're actually energizing that situation by focusing on it. So through the law of attraction, you're actually going to do it because you keep focusing on it. The universe and our inner, you know, our subconscious, it doesn't really recognize don't do or do. It just recognizes the object of focus. So if you keep saying, don't eat the Mars bar, don't eat the Mars bar, don't eat the Mars bar, well, you just keep telling yourself about a Mars bar. What are you going to do? You're going to go and eat the Mars bar and then feel really, really guilty about it. And then that guilt cycle, because you feel like, oh, well, I've broke the dam now. I failed miserably. So now I may as well go and just eat all of this other stuff because I've already failed. And then I'll start again tomorrow. It's honestly it's not helpful. It doesn't really work. And diets in general, I don't think work. And for this reason, for the reason that I've just explained, that whenever you go on a diet and you try to start restricting what you can and can't eat, what you should and shouldn't eat, you're just creating a resistance towards something, and that resistance then makes you go and want to do that. And if you do it, then you have all this negative emotion that sucks you down. So I just work with like going with the flow. I flow through situations, particularly what I eat. And it's easier to flow through a situation when you're happy and you're enjoying it. So that's why aligning your life, aligning your work, who you spend your time with, your hobbies, every part of your day, try and align that with what actually brings you fulfillment, because then inherently you just won't feel the need to eat as much, because you're not trying to replace the inner happiness with the happiness of eating, which is all overeating is really. It's just a substitute for not being fulfilled within yourself. So you're trying to fulfill yourself with food and then you feel guilty. So 1, aligning your life with what makes you happy. And 2, if and when you get to that point, don't set any boundaries around food and calorie counting. I can't eat this and I can't eat that. Just eat something. And because you don't have all that additional stress that you're putting onto it, you will quickly realize when you're actually eating something that you don't really want. And you start eating for the right reasons instead of the wrong reasons of self-sabotage. So now, sometimes I do just pick up a bit of chocolate sheerly out of habit, and I don't actually really want it at that point, but it's just such a habit. But I recognize that really quickly now because I'm tuned in, because I'm not tuning into an external set of rules that I've imposed on myself. I'm just tuning into my flow and my rhythm and, what my body's actually telling me at this moment in time. So obviously this is not an advocate for just go and eat lots of junk, but what I'm saying is just live a soul-led life. Then you naturally won't crave as much junk food and everything anyway. And also just don't put the restrictions on yourself. Just eat what you want, but eat in moderation. And if you don't know, it's hard to moderate sometimes. Definitely sleeping properly is a massive key as well. I find the less I sleep, the more I want to just, eat basically. The more I sleep, the less I eat. And stress levels, which again links back to my original point of living a soul-centered life. If you're not in alignment with yourself and every day takes you away from who you are, your cortisol level is going to be really high. Cortisol makes you want to eat more because it's telling your body that you need fuel, you need energy to survive. It puts you in that stress mode. And it's just telling you need fuel because it's in fear and panic mode, and it's going to it wants to accumulate energy and it wants to preserve energy, which is why your weight goes up when you're stressed, because your metabolism doesn't work as effectively, because your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest, switches off when you're stressed. Because when you're stressed, the cortisol hormone tells your brain, I need to fight. So all your blood and resources go to your brain and your muscles, and your digestion switches off. So if you're constantly in an elevated state of cortisol, your digestion is not going to be working effectively. So essentially, again, going back to the soul-led life, try and align what you do every day to what you want, to who you are, and your cortisol level will come down, which means that there won't be that inherent craving for food, because your brain will be going, actually, I don't need any more energy. I'm fine. I don't need any more food. I'm fine. There's no panic. There's nothing I need to, attack or run away from. So just sharing my thoughts on that. I know there'll be lots of people that may disagree, that have had really success on some of these diets. I'm personally yet to meet someone, but I'm always open to somebody proving me wrong. So let me know what you think.